Okay, thank you, Sinula, for inviting me and for this talk series. So as we can see that today our presentation is on the Tibetan nomads, and we all know that the climate change it has impact. It is not only particularly having impact on one particular region. It has global phenomena where, especially the Tibetan plateau, it has seen a great impact of climate change. However, the impact of on the Tibetan people themselves have received far less attention as compared to what we have seen in in many of the Chinese researchers. They have done a huge research on the impact of climate change. However, there are very little information about the impact it has on the Tibetan people, especially the Tibetan nomads. They are the ones who are caught up between the climate change impact and the Chinese government policies. So, so talking about the Tibetan nomads, I want to talk about the nomads. What are, how their way of life. Nomad in general is people who doesn't live continually in one place. They move from one place to another cyclically or periodically. So the term nomads have general of three types: nomadic hunters and gatherers, and pastoral nomads, tinker and trader nomads. So Tibetan nomads are generally considered as the pastoral nomads. They are distinct from the other pastoral nomads which are found in other regions in the world. And Tibetan nomads, they generally live in altitude of around 11,000 to 17,000 feet, and the environment where they are too cold for crop cultivation. And they are Tibetan nomads are generally very much dependent on the domesticated livestock, such as yak, sheep, goat, and they migrate from the one established territory to another to find pasture for their animals. So this is a map of Tibet with the vast rangeland where nomadic pastoralism is widely practiced. And Tibetan nomads, they have been surviving in this high altitude. This provides a great example of nomadic practices that were once, spread throughout the pastoral world. But now the nomadic lifestyle and nomadic peoples were very hard to find throughout the world. And thus understanding the Tibetan nomads offer an exceptional opportunity to learn about their way of life that is quickly vanishing from the face of earth. So, however, due to the Chinese government policies of privatizing the grasslands and fencing the grasslands and controlling the size of the herds, the nomads, and by forcefully resettling Tibetan nomads, they are threatening the very aspects of the Tibetan nomads culture. So, and in 1990s, the Chinese, many of the Chinese government policies makers and the scientists, they have found that they have noticed that there are increase in the desertification and the degradation of grasslands due to, especially in the Sangshen region. This is a region where head of the three major rivers that flows into China have its source. So the Yangtze, Yellow, and Mekong, these three rivers have its source in this region. So what happened in this desertification or grassland degradation in this region have huge impact on the economic and the environment environment of the people living in downstream in eastern China. So talking about the Yangtze and Yellow, these are the two major rivers that flows into China, and they were majority of the Chinese population are dependent on these two rivers for their survival. So when we look into the different government policies which were implemented, and it has a huge impact on the Tibetan nomads. Since the Chinese occupation of Tibet and the coming of the Chinese Communist Party in power, there were a series of policies which were implemented. And talking about the policies and the commune system, which was first started in 60s to late 1970s. So during this period, the degradation of grasslands has happened due to the collectivization of the commune systems. So the Tibetan PLA have collected all the nomads' properties, everything the nomads own were collectivized. So unlike traditional period where each family, they perform their activities during their communal areas, individual, they have to specialize in one of the two activities, such as herding or milking. So moreover, the government had also turned all this grassland into agricultural land, and not only this, those grassland were owned by the state, and over exploitation of these grassland have increased due to increase their productivities. And other than this, during the commune systems, like each family, they were forced to work, and they were given a work point, where at the end of the year, these work points were turned into monetary values, and the people were given cash values for each work point. So the quality of life during those period in 1960s to 70s have deteriorated as compared to the traditional lifestyle they have lived in the past. So private ownership of livestock were replaced by the people's commune, and all this happened in this one decade from 1960 to 1970s. And then, with the death of the Mao in 1976, the commune system has added, and the decollectivization or the privatization system has begun. And in 1980s, nomads were able to gain some control over their animals and their lifestyles, and they were those animals, well, after the commune systems, those livestock were equally divided among the nomads. So the household, they begin to produce, and they can depend on their own. The people, they have their own production and consumptions without depending on the government subsidies. So the pastures were also allocated to the group of 3 and 6 households living in the same pastures. And during those periods, the Chinese government have encouraged those nomads to produce more of the goods. And during those periods, we can see that it was during the end of the Mao's period and the economic reform period, where the peoples were encouraged to produce more of the goods and bring it in the markets. So during those periods, we have seen that many of the Chinese scientists have come up that during those periods, most of the during those periods, the number of livestock have increased to 113%, especially in the Tibetan region. The herd size have also grew to unsustainable levels, and a chain of grassland degradation have started during those periods. So as we see in many of the scientific studies that during major land degradation and grassland degradation have started in 1980s to 90s. And then Chinese government realizing that the degradation of the grasslands, there were a series of reforms implemented, such as the household contract responsibility systems, and the grassland law were also implemented to protect the degradation of grassland and to modernize the animal husbandry. So during those periods, in 1990s to 2000s, a land lease certificate was issued to nomads. So land was contracted to the Tibetan nomads for 30 to 50 years, depending on the size of herds and location. This was also to encourage the conservation of pastures and to give the nomads a sense of ownership of their land. However, along with this law, there were many other policies were implemented, such as 4-way programs, which allow the fencing regimes and the construction of shelters for Tibetan nomads and livestock. This was meant to control the herd size and the grazings. And late 90s, implementation of series of policies and measures were also taken place, and then Chinese government have realized that everything was going wrong, and then there was a rangeland degradation were continuously happening and increasing rate. So especially in the Yangtze and the Yellow River source areas. So then in 2000s, the Chinese government came up with the resettlement policies, and then in 2003, grassland rehabilitation policies were implemented. This grassland policies is called, Thermo Hongo in Chinese, and in Tibetan, Chukyu Tsagyong, which means which means that closing the pastures to restore the grasslands. So during this period, the main measure of this policy is to relocate the herders from their grassland to state-built housing. Since then, land lease certificates, which was given during 1990s, then all have been nullified, forcing tens of thousands of Tibetan nomads into the resettled camp. And according to state media and the Chinese government, this program is to store the grasslands and to prevent the overgrazing and improve the living standard of the Tibetan nomads. This is the Sangshingyuan region, the source of the three great rivers. It is located in the Qinghai areas, and as we can see that around 40% of the Qinghai area comes under the Sangshingyuan National Nature Reserves. So the first relocation has happened in this region. We call this region as Mati Zasum, and this is the head of the three great rivers of Tibet, Machu, Dichu, and Zachu. And Chinese government labeled this relocation as an ecological migrant, as if they were voluntarily agreed to move. So this ecological resettlement project was started in 2003 in this region, Sangshingyuan region, and it's managed by the Sangshingyuan office belonging to the Development and Reform Committee of Qinghai province. And however, we can see that there were both due to the natural and man-made factors, the region have seen a serious degradation of grasslands, and Chinese government assumed that it's because of the overgrazing that the grassland degradation is happening in this region. However, the local herders and many of the local people and the researchers, they have pointed out that climate change, mining, and problem of grassland management contributed to the grassland degradation as well. So in order to restore and protect the ecological environment of this region, Chinese government established Sangshingyuan National Nature Reserve in 2000, and which was recently in 2009 has been turned into China's Sangshingyuan National Nature Park. So there were around 113,000 nomads have been relocated and settled under the Environmental Migration Scheme. So Human Rights Watch, they have interviewed a number of people, and they have come up with a report that those who were relocated or rehoused, they did not do so voluntarily. They were never consulted or offered alternatives, and it was a forceful relocation. So talking about the case which was case study done by Fashion Du. He's a professor at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, and during a period for a period of almost 10 months, he have done research in Matthew County. So he have this Matthew County, it comes under the jurisdiction of Golok Tibetan Autonomous Prefecture, and this is in this Golok Tibetan Autonomous Prefecture, and the Matthew County, there were around 13,471 people. Around 95% are of Tibetans, and out of 95%, 80% of these households were nomadic herders. So we can see that around 80% of the Tibetan living in these areas were nomadic herders, and they were forcefully relocated. So from the period of 2003 to 2008, from Madhya County, around 2,334 people were resettled into the 4 resettlement village. And we can see that these are the 2 villages where this Chinese professor, he had gone and interviewed with the people. And what he have realized that these from Madhya County, this relocation were mainly happened in relocation were mainly done somewhere villages were within the county itself, some were in the other counties and other prefecture. So we can and during this field research, he have found that the relocation have had a huge impact on the environment and socio-economic changes and environmental impact. So these nomads have experienced huge changes in their livelihood, security, identity, adaptation to urban life, housing, and the further degradation of the grasslands. Talking about the livelihood security, so he have found that ecological resettlement to some extent have improved the housing, education, medical care, and transportation, but their overall living standard have fell. So the people who he have interviewed, he found out that the quality of life after resettlement is generally not very satisfactory due to higher living standard, higher living expenses in cities and the towns. So he during interview, he interviewed one of the people who have relocated. His name is Tawa, and he said that everything here costs money. A slice of meat costs 10 RMB. So does a bag of livestock dung. We can't afford them. Yet, when we lived on the grassland, we didn't need very much at all. We got everything from our livestock. But we came here, we sold all our livestock, tore down our houses, and gave our grasslands back to the state. Now we can't find any jobs. We just stay at home doing nothing all day long. So like this resettled herders, there were many similar problems faced by the other Tibetan nomads. So they are mainly dependent on the government subsidies, and there were very less job opportunities available for them. So these the government subsidies which were given to these resettled herders, they were insufficient to meet daily expenses. Everything they have to buy, like food, water, electricity, clothing, transportation, religious activities, everything these government subsidies are insufficient to meet these demands. So, however, some of the resettled, they undertook different activities such as digging up for caterpillar fungus and knitting blanket for sale, operating a small business, working as a construction workers. However, this unstable nature of the low-income job resulted in the standard of living declining after the resettlements. And then they face identity issues, and many of the nomads, they experience a cultural shock and social disruptions. So they when they move to other new prefectures, they face the issue of increasing marginalization, and sometimes they joke that they are neither remain as a nomads nor as a urban settlers. So they are in between, they're losing their identity. So other than this, they also face a problem with the adaptation to urban life. So most of the resettled people, they have very less formal education, and most of them doesn't know a Mandarin Chinese language skill. So this led to the less job opportunities for these people, and the case of crimes and excessive alcohol consumption have increased in these resettled communities. So these people are also facing difficulty in obtaining job because of their low skills and lack of industries in these resettled communities. And then other than this, they are also facing the problem of housing as well. So generally, like, although that the government have provide a free housing for all these herders, um, but the government did not provide housing for the new nuclear families when their son and daughters get married or resettled. You know, they just have to share their flats with their aging parents, and so there's no way they can buy or build a new house in these resettlement camps. Then, like, as like we know that Chinese government, they claim that it is mainly for the protection of the grasslands and to protection of the grasslands. And however, the research have found out that with the grazing ban and removal of Tibetan nomads, the region where the Sanxingyan region have there are slight increase in the grassland recovery, but a significant improvement. There's no significant improvement in these areas. So major problem the county is facing is because of the mismanagement of the grasslands, and there were insufficient fund to the organization to work effectively. So since like most of the grassland were fenced, and they were like abandonment of grasslands. These are neither well protected or nor restored. So leaving the grasslands empty for long, like it has further led to the degradation of the grasslands. So Chinese government have came up with the policies of fencing. So many of the livestock, they were like they can't move from one grassland to another's. So Chinese government, in order to protect bad pastures from the like other good pastures, the Chinese government have put fences. So that lead to the overgrazing of some good pastures, and it lead to the overgrazing of the good pastures, and then like in other side, like the bad pastures which were like has been abandoned for a long time, and it led to the further degradations. So the Tibetan local herders, they believe that the grassland graze in appropriate number of animals would be in good condition. So manure from these grazing animals can be used as a nutrient to soil and to stimulate the growth of the good grass. But however, with the ban of the grazing, and they limited the number of the herd size and the fencings, this has further increased the degradation of the grasslands. So as a result of the grazing ban, it seems that it is not well managed, and the strategy caused a new problem such as fragmented grasslands and via the fencing and the lack of necessary livestock activity on the grasslands. So with all this field work or interviewed and research done by many of the Chinese scientists, we have found out that the real motive of the scheme is not just for environmental restoration, but to clear the land for mineral extraction and forcefully remove Tibetan nomads into a purposeful state-built housing where they can be more easily controlled or monitored by the local authorities. So since 2009, there were around 160 Tibetan have self-immolated as a form of a socio-political protest against the religion and the cultural repression. But although they are difficult to verify accurately due to the reporting restriction and sensitive security issues within Tibetan region, many seems that they have come from nomadic backgrounds. So once self-sufficient and self-sustaining Tibetan nomads, now they are reduced to a marginal poverty. And however, to meet their policy goals, Chinese government have relocated these Tibetan nomads, and this has led to the further financial dependence on the Chinese government. And we can see that as a result of the nomad resettlements, this has led to the serious threat to the cultural and traditional way of life of the Tibetan nomads. Moreover, these forceful resettlements are also a violation of human rights, rights which are enshrined in the international instrument that China has ratified, such as the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the UN Convention on Biodiversity, and the Indigenous Peoples Declaration of the 2007. So these are the rights, like human rights. This is also not only the policies which have impact on the Tibetan people. These are this is also violation of the human rights of the Tibetan nomads. That's all. Thank you.